Hey YouTube, it's Ryan back with another video, and today we are going to be going over Charlotte County, the main steps of due diligence. So I get a lot of properties sent over to me and I'll respond back and tell them, oh, it's in the scrub J zone, or oh, the property is clearly in wetlands, and that's going to require a discount on the property. And I always get the same question, where did you get that information? Where did you find that? So the purpose of today's video is we're going to be going over all the due diligence I personally conduct when I'm doing Charlotte County. And just to be clear, when you're doing this due diligence, the main thing is you want to be able to get your eyes on the property. So you have to make a decision. Like if you're going to do this virtually, obviously you could send someone to go get their eyes on it, or just roll the dice every time and do all your due diligence online. To disclose, I have a certain threshold that I will physically go to the property, but most of the time these lots do not hit that threshold. So most of the time I do not physically go to the lot. So I'll show you the way that I conduct my due diligence. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the property and we're going to treat this one as our subject property today. So it's going to be this one on Barnwood. I actually sold this property, so I figured this would be the perfect example because this is exactly what we had to do when we were selling the property. So the first thing you can do is you can kind of get some basic information from Zillow, but like the utilities right here, for example. So right here it states public sewer, public water. You got sewer, water. It doesn't say it, but electricity available on this one as well. So the thing is, you're relying on realtors to be doing their job correctly. So, road surface type paved. Sometimes they'll just assume all the roads are paved and they'll just select paved. So you got to really be careful on the due diligence that you perform on Zillow, because it's not Zillow's data, it's another realtor that set this up. So this being the subject property, we're not going to rely on Zillow at all, and I'm going to show you how I conduct my due diligence. So the first thing that I normally do is I'll go to the property appraiser site, and we're going to enter in the street number right here, and then the next one is going to be Barnwood Lane. As you can see, I looked into it before. So you're going to search Barnwood Lane, and there's going to be two main things you're going to want to look for in the property appraiser site. Number one is going to be the zoning code. So I'm very familiar with the zoning code. I know RSF stands for single family. If you're unsure, you can go into it, and usually it'll give you a quick little description. So we'll search for it, RSF, and there it is right there, residential single family. So that's the first step, is getting an understanding of the zoning code, and then also the flood zone code. So normally a flood zone, if you're out of the flood zone, it's just going to read X or X500. It's going to really depend on where you are. But this automatically says, hey, you're in a flood zone. So then I see that flood zone code, and naturally the next thing that I want to do, like no matter what it is I like to go to the Wetlands Mapper. So this is another public site. It's free, the fwsprimary.wim.usgs.gov. And on here, you're able to search for properties and see if they're in wetlands, which is a big part of Southwest Florida, or just Florida in general. It's known for the wetlands. So we know our property's right here. It's this corner lot. But the flood zone normally takes a few seconds to load. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit because you want to be able to confirm nearby wetlands. And just looking at the map, maybe right there could be some, over here could be more. And then the waterways, it should be showing up on the wetland. So like I said, sometimes it takes a few seconds to load. I usually get pretty impatient and I want to just keep refreshing the page, which I'll probably do right now. I'll refresh once, then I'll go on to the next one if we still need to wait for the Wetlands Mapper to load. But let's zoom out a little bit again. And in the waterways, you should be able to see blue. So that's how I know it's not loading, is because I don't see the blue running through the waterways at a minimum. And you should also see some wetlands in some areas. Like I said, over here, looks like there could be some, and same with over here. This little region over here, the soil just looks like a different color than what everything else that I see. So we'll come back to this while this loads. Oh, there it goes. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so over here, you got wetlands right along here, and then you have more wetlands right over here. So as you can see, development is at a standstill in this little section right here because of it. But the main thing is we're focusing on our property and we are clear of it. We're either this one or this one, I can't remember, but either way, we're not in the wetlands. So that is a great second step for us when looking at this property. So number one, we're in a questionable flood zone, which we could call and get more information on if we were doing our due diligence. Number two, we are not in wetlands. So now the third thing to look for in Charlotte County specifically is going to be the scrub J zone, which for this we're going to go to the GIS. And in the GIS, we're going to paste our address again. We're going to let it pull up the property. And here, you got to go off to the side to the layers option. And we're going to scroll most of the way down, and we're going to look for scrub J permit boundary. And as you can see, we got the lucky lot of being in a scrub J zone. So what a scrub J is, it's a little tiny bird, and when you're going to build, each lot that you're trying to build is usually anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 per property. So as you can see, this makes a big difference in our area, because if you look at comps, like this is a corner lot right here that we're looking at. If we were to use another corner lot like right here or right here, and one of those sold for, let's say, $20,000, we might think, oh, you know, we can get $20,000 for ours. But then you look, they're not in a scrub J zone and you are. And that's going to be an out-of-pocket expense for the future buyer. So, and that is something that they'll beat you up on during negotiations. They'll be like, hey, you know, it's in a scrub J zone, we need a price reduction. So it's just something to consider. You can zoom out a little bit, you can see where the scrub J zone is, how big it is, and you want to keep this in mind when you're comping the property. Because when you're comping, you need to do apples to apples, and this, you know, comparing this to a non-scrub J zone is not a fair comparison. You'd want to compare this one, number 6 right here, to maybe 21, 20, 1, 24, 11, 13, 12. You'd want to see if any of those sold, you know, when comping a property. So there's another thing to look for. So now this property needs to be bought at a discount regardless of who's buying it, because of a scrub J zone. And now the last thing I like to look for is the utilities. So it's a really important one. I wouldn't say this is like the order of the importance. This is just the order I normally go in, especially in Charlotte County. So we're gonna go ahead and paste the address, and as you can see, blue lines on the property show city water, and these green lines show city sewer. So this water actually has city water and city sewer, which is a really big selling point for the property, because now you don't need to worry about a well and a septic. And then the last part of, you know, when you're doing your comparables and your due diligence, you want to zoom out a little bit, and you want to make sure that city water and sewer runs through the entire area. Because sometimes what will happen is you'll have the city sewer down the main road, and it'll go across the, you know, like the inner main road that connects all the streets, and then it might go over to yours, but not the one to the south or not the one to the north. And you're looking at those comps and you see that one sold, and you assume it has city water and sewer, but not necessarily. It may only have one of the two. So that's where you really want to spend the extra, you know, a little bit of time. You want to look into the flood zone, the zoning code, wetlands, scrub J, and then utilities. And after you do all that, you can have a, you know, kind of a good idea when you're comparing, trying to find the price of a property, which I went over in a past video, of, you know, apples to apples comparison. You can really dial in on what you believe retail is going to be on a property. And then obviously, you know, you want to buy under retail. So that is pretty much it for Charlotte County. This works all over in the county. So, you know, some of the main cities are Port Charlotte, Placida, Northport. You know, those are some of the main cities that you would look into when doing this and making sure that you follow these steps. Now, like I said, the best thing to do for the properties is to physically go there. You know, you can really get a gauge on the property, especially if you go there on a rainy day. You know, you can really tell what's going on with the property. But the main thing is, and that you can't see on here, are owls and turtles. You can't see if there's any animals living on the property. There's no way for you to do it right now through the county. Cape Coral does allow you, which I'll go over in a future video. But as for the sake of this one, you can't see any animals on the property. So there could be a burrowing turtle that needs to be relocated at the time of construction, and that'll cost you $6,000 to $7,000. You know, and you need your permits already in place. You need everything already in place before you can even schedule the removal. So it's just something to consider. It is a little bit of a gamble doing it this way, only relying on, you know, the online data, but, you know, it's definitely better than just looking at comps and thinking that, you know, yours is worth a certain number when it isn't. You know, maybe you're zoned for multifamily, maybe you're zoned for single family, and your comps are multifamily. You never know. So until you look into it. But that'll conclude this video. Thank you.